All right, guys, some stocks on watch for tomorrow. Now, I don't know how much this is going to matter because I think the market's going to be crazy and these stocks won't matter that much because Apple here, 524.75 at the close. Whoops, let me get extended hours on there. And you can see what happened. All the way up near 570, 566 right now. What did they announced a 7-for-1 stock split, I think, and I think their earnings were good too. So you got a big gap. And so if you look at the Qs, all the way up at 87.90, and that closed at 86.76. So look at SPY, closed at 187.45, and it's up at 188.43 if you go to 60-minute candles. I mean, up near those all-time highs again. Pretty close. So I expect a strong market tomorrow, but who knows? Who knows? Once the gap up, it may sell. Again, we have this declining volume as the SPY climbs back up, and you can see then when the selling starts, it gets hit pretty hard on big volume. Don't know if that's going to happen again. If I'm short this market, I'm going to start getting frustrated. Now, I don't overnight, I don't do that, but I mean, if I was short this market, I'd start to get frustrated. So who knows what to expect tomorrow. But all right, having babbled about all that, back to the watch list, and I'm leaving Apple, Facebook also gapping up, by the way, leaving those out of the list. I'm sure plenty of people will be playing those tomorrow. I generally don't mess with stuff like that on the day after earnings, but you never know. All right, SVU, big volume and a nice little pop out of kind of a cup and handle. That one deserves to be on a watch list tomorrow. This one is extremely obscure, this ISR, and I just said I don't hold overnight. I actually started a position in this one the last few days, but small, okay, not big. But it's interesting. The reason I say it's obscure is because you had this huge move all the way up to whatever this was, 377, then a secondary move up to 350. A lot of good news coming out of this company. It's interesting if you want to research it. But when you switch to 15-minute candles, let me get the after hours off of there. Switch to 15-minute candles, and I'm going to show you something that I look for when I'm looking for a recent strong stock to bounce. Okay, I'm going to put a little line. Let me back out a little farther, actually. I'm going to go all the way back to April 9th, okay? On April 9th, there was the opening. This is the opening high of the 15-minute candles where I'm putting these lines. Right here, it actually broke that opening high in the afternoon. See it? That was the last time it did that, okay? Here's the early high the next day. The next day, it gapped down and ran all day, so that doesn't really apply. But then the next day, the early high. Early high, I'm just going one day at a time. Early high, this one gapped down and ran, but there was their high before noon. You notice none of these days you had an opening high and then a break of that high in the afternoon. Same thing here. This was yesterday. This is the opening high, but still you hit the high in the morning. You notice none of these you did not have an afternoon break, and this is today. There's the opening high. So every one of these, look at the afternoon following the opening high. You do not have a high of day break in the afternoon. This is setting up for a really nice afternoon move one of these days if that happens. If you get, a narrow range like it's been doing and a high of day break after that. You also have the first pullback after that huge move was to around $2. This could be trying to put in, it's kind of finding support here. Again, I don't know that this is deserves to be on Bounce Watch tomorrow. But going forward, this should be on Bounce Watch every day. Just keep it on a chart. It doesn't cost you anything to have it on a chart. If you get a narrow range and then an afternoon high of day break, I'll bet you anything you get a nice 1, 2, 3% move. And so properly played, that can be a nice little intraday payday. So keep this one on watch. All right, ISR. I've said enough about that. It's not much of a day trader unless that exact thing that I just said happens. Otherwise, I wouldn't mess with it. Okay. Skechers, a lot of times you get a gap up and then it sells off all day. The next day it's primed for a bounce, so that one's on Bounce Watch. SCSS, Select Comfort. You had a big breakout here a couple days ago, and now you've got 2 red days on lower volume. This one goes on Bounce Watch. Again, bounce plays, have to meet certain intraday parameters. I'd like to see, kind of like ISR, I'd like to see a narrow range and then an afternoon high of day break. But there are other ways to play them too. A gap down and then a break of its 5-minute high to the upside can work. So, it depends on what happens with it on an intraday basis. Yahoo, after the gap up, looks like it's headed lower again, but it's hitting the 8-day and the 20-day here. just like the others, if you get a narrow range and then an afternoon high of day break, I'll bet you get a nice move in Yahoo. And then Soda, I got to have this one on watch. After this big volume move today, got to have that back on watch tomorrow. And then a kind of a lower volume one, LIVE, had a nice volume pop a few days ago, pulled back for a couple days. Green day today, switched to 15s. So it's kind of flagged and then a sideways base. So this one could be higher from this point on. So that one's on watch tomorrow as well. Especially like it over 520. You can see this one can make really nice percentage moves at times. And I do have one more obscure one for you, MNGA. Now, there's nothing that pretty about this chart other than it's a low float stock, and it makes really nice moves. I thought I read where they're profitable too already. I double check that, but I don't really care that much about fundamentals as a trader. But this one is becoming interesting, kind of basing here. And if you get over this 3 or 4 day high, I think you could get a nice move. So MNGA is kind of interesting. One more thing back to ISR. If you switch to weekly candles, this is another thing I meant to point out. You had the big move, you had a secondary push, and look at the declining volume over the last few weeks, just kind of grinding lower. Any kind of news story, and then you get a buy signal on the weekly chart too, and it's coming down near the weekly the 8-week moving average, if you will. So there's another reason I like this. If you want to play it off weekly candles for a swing trade, then you still won't be in it until you get a break of a previous week's high. But that's another look that I like at this one. All right, good luck tomorrow. It's going to be an interesting day with Facebook and Apple, and it should be a crazy day tomorrow. But have a good night, and we'll see you tomorrow.